The late great David Bowie was a personal hero of mine, and I mourned his passing. I was incredibly sad. Many of Bowie's albums are some of my favourite albums of all time, particularly Ziggy Stardust. I could listen to that album on repeat over and over again. It's one of the albums that I would take to a desert island with me. Now, you might know a lot about David Bowie, but did you know how well read he was? So this is part of a new series that I'm doing. I've analysed the reading list of Marilyn Monroe, I've analysed the reading list of Jim Morrison, and as I came across a list of 100 books that were David Bowie's favourite books. Apparently this was something that he posted on Facebook back when he was alive, top 100 favourite reads of David Bowie. I thought that I'd go through it and analyse it, commentate on some of the books as an Oxford student, someone who spent 3 years reading pretty much every book in the English language, and I wanted to see kind of what David Bowie's reading was like. So let's jump into the David Bowie reading list. Okay, I'm not going to look at all the books, because there's 100, like I said, but I'll just look at the ones that stand out to me. The first one that kind of stands out to me personally is A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. This is a very slim book. It's even though it's slim, it's very, very hard to read because it's written in a new vernacular. Burgess came up with a new language that's kind of a mix of Russian with a bunch of other bits and bobs. So it takes a while to find a footing in the world, and what's great about this novel is all about how in groups create an outgroup, an external, an other through language. So by reading this book, that's a novella, and it's ultra violent, you might have seen the Stanley Kubrick movie, which is really good. By reading this book, you're learning the process of getting accepted and getting into a new group by gradually piecing together the vernacular and understanding the vocabulary. And so you understand the process of being an outsider and then becoming an insider. And whether you want to be an insider of that group or not is that's up to you. But that's really interesting. It's a small book, but it really rewards repeat readings. What's the next one? Okay, he's also got Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. Flaubert was really instrumental when it came to the development of the novel. I mean, we can name Dostoevsky, we can name Dickens, we can name Tristram Shandy, a book by Lawrence Stern, we can name Defoe, we can name Richardson, who came up with Pamela and Clarissa. But Flaubert came up with this idea of le mot juste, the perfect word, and he wanted the writer to be like a camcorder almost, like the narrative just recording things and selecting things and making it seem neutral and impartial, like a impartial perception of reality. Obviously we're not going to go too far into that and the philosophy of that, but Flaubert was highly influential, and Madame Bovary is his masterpiece. Very worth reading. A great book of French literature. He's also got the Iliad by Homer. Now, when people are reading the great books of Western civilization, the Western canon, I always think one of the best places to start is with Homer. It's really hard, but it rewards deep reading and has a lot to do with honour and respect, gods, fate, all that sort of thing. Now, if you want a good edition of Homer, I'd recommend the Iliad version translated by Robert Fagles. This is a gorgeous edition, very, very affordable. The pages are lovely, there's maps in it. It's a beautiful one, so I definitely recommend the Iliad. On the list we've also got As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. Faulkner has a lot of great books. This one's very difficult. A lot of people think this is his masterpiece, but he's got other masterpieces like The Sound and the Fury, Absalom. This is really hard because it does a really strange thing with interior monologues. Really, as a modernist writer, Faulkner's work was foundational. Often when it comes to like modern classics, people are torn. They either prefer Hemingway style or Faulkner style. So I'll leave that one up to you. I would say As I Lay Dying, although it is a very challenging read, it's a very rewarding read. So Bowie would have been very intelligent if he chose this as one of his favourite books and could understand everything Faulkner was doing. Yeah, he's got Inside the Whale and Other Essays by George Orwell. Orwell's essays are great. They're really worth reading, especially today. If you haven't read 1984, Animal Farm. Animal Farm's very, very slim. I'd say it's worth reading, and it will put a lot of the political stuff that's going on today into stark contrast. Bowie, if he'd read Orwell, he would have been very perceptive, and actually it's a shame we don't know what Bowie would have thought of the current climate. We've got The Stranger by Albert Camus, and The Stranger is this not the same one as The Outsider, if I recall rightly? This is about a man who's arrested for a murder. I've not read this one for ages, but if you're reading Camus, then I would recommend The Myth of Sisyphus, this one here. But Camus is accessible pop philosophy, and I'm pretty sure he got the Nobel Prize. I definitely will be returning to Camus, and it doesn't surprise me that Bowie would have liked a bit of Albert Camus. He's also got works by Angela Carter, Mikhail Bulgakov, and Muriel Spark. Yeah, the Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. They're all good. These are writers that I need to tuck into more. I've got them on my to read. I've got a whole shelf, a whole bookcase of books that I haven't even dived into yet. But they look decent and they're held in good esteem for a reason. So he's also got Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. Nabokov was trilingual. I don't think English was his first language. He was Russian, but he spoke French as well. And it's funny that a person who's not natively English could come up with the most beautiful English in the language, really. Vladimir Nabokov, if you read his biography, Speak Memory, it turns out that he was synesthetic, so he could see colours, smell sounds, all that sort of thing, and that really rubs off in a lot of his writings, particularly Lolita. Lolita was it censored? I think it was pulled, and there was a lot of controversy, obviously, because of the topic matter, but it's well worth a read. He's not endorsing the main protagonist or what he does, but it is a very, very interesting book and well worth reading. We've got Puckoon by Spike Milligan. It doesn't surprise me that Bowie likes Milligan. Milligan was a sort of old school, I think he was an influence for Monty Python, old school sort of British silly comedy. He was also somewhat of a genius. It wouldn't surprise me if Milligan was a hero of Bowie's. Who else has he got? He got Saul Bellow, Richard Wright. Yep, Richard Wright's good. On Bowie's list, he's got Black Boy. I've got Black Boy somewhere, and it's covered in marginalia notes. I think it's on my bedside table. Really, really interesting. It's a really pacey read. If you're interested in black rights, civil rights, Richard Wright is really worth reading. I've also picked up, because I liked Black Boy so much, Native Son, also by Richard Wright. If you're interested in the writing of James Baldwin, who wrote Giovanni's Room, and he wrote the Beale Street one, James Baldwin was quite heavily influenced by Richard Wright, so you could go on a bit of a literary breadcrumb mission, and yeah, doesn't surprise me that Bowie was interested in those sort of topics. Also got The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Yeah, great book. It's really small as well. People don't realise how quickly you can read that book. It's beautifully rendered. The language is crystal. A great story as well. You've got The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea by Yukio Mishima. Everybody reads Haruki Murakami when it comes to Japanese literature, but Mishima is really worth delving into. Really gentle sensibilities, really nice nuance, beautiful poetry in prose. Highly recommend Mishima. And that's funny that Bowie read it, because I don't think Mishima is hugely popular, or at least he wasn't in the literary community back when Bowie was alive. You also got The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. Yeah, a long narrative poem, really, really good, really resonant and modernist. You've probably read it already if you're anything of a reader. If not, highly recommend. It's difficult, you might need some commentary, but it's good. Money by Martin Amis, interesting. Colin Wilson, The Outsider. Now this shows that Bowie was interested in being an outsider and an outsider looking in. Colin Wilson is one of the texts that I discussed in my interview at Oxford University. When you read Colin Wilson, in fact I've got him up here. Yeah, you got The Craft of the Novel by Colin Wilson. Really, really good. I love Colin Wilson, along with Harold Bloom. He's one of my favourite critics. The Outsider talks about works by Camus, Dostoevsky, Sartre, and really worth reading. It's a great book. You got McTigue by Frank Norris. I haven't read this one, but I know that this is one of Stephen King's favourite books, so it's probably worth checking out. English Journey by J.B. Priestley. Yeah, I've read In Spectacles. Obviously, I'm going to do a video on that, which was really interesting, but I haven't dove more into J.B. Priestley's work, so it might be worth it. 1984 by George Orwell. Lovely. Okay, so he had some Orwell. So I thought, is he going to do more Orwell? 1984. Great. Good book. He's also put the Beano, a comic from the 50s. That's a British or English comic or whatever. Beano, Dennis the Menace. You know, it's funny that he's a Beano rather than a dandy guy. Good stuff. I used to collect the Beano. And Raw, a comic from the 80s. I don't know Raw. Do you know Raw? I'm a 90s kid, so I don't know Raw. He's got White Noise by Don DeLillo. I've got a few of DeLillo's books somewhere. I've got Underworld, and I've got what they call Americana. There's one called, is it Metropolis? There's one about a limo and an assassination. He does big works. I've read White Noise, really, really good. I met an author called Joe Dunthorne, and he based his second book, Wild Abandon, on DeLillo's White Noise, the structure and the characters. So we had a good deep chat about Don DeLillo, which was really rewarding. Highly recommend Don DeLillo. He's a good writer. He's got loads of stuff about writers, the Paris Review interviews. Yeah, Paris Review's a good magazine. I like reading the interviews. The Sound of the City, The Rise of Rock and Roll, of course, Bowie's a Rockstar, pop star, revolutionised the music industry. Of course he's going to be reading about music. He's got some books by Tom Stoppard, he's got Hart Crane, more Anthony Burgess. Most people just read A Clockwork Orange, they don't really progress with Burgess's other works, which is a shame. In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, yeah, again, it's a slim work, and that's one of the best examples of literary non-fiction, really worth reading. Truman Capote was great. D.H. Lawrence, Lady Chatterley's Lover, another banned book. That's actually quite, that's a bit of a boring book in my opinion, but there was a huge censorship trial. It was all about free speech and free publication and stuff. It got overruled when it went to trial, and so people started printing it again. But it was a huge thing. Marilyn Monroe, I know that was on her bookshelf as well, and she actually liked D.H. Lawrence and read a lot of his works. So, hey, maybe I need to revisit D.H. Lawrence. I do like some of his poems, and I do like his short stories, like The Rocking Horse Winner. That's worth checking out if you want to dip into D.H. Lawrence. Evil in War, yeah, good stuff. James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time. Great, okay, so like I said, he read Robert Wright, Black Boy, so he probably would have dived into James Baldwin. I haven't read that specific one, but I do like Giovanni's Room. It's a very slim one. I think I've got it here. Yep, there we go. Slim one. I'd recommend the Everyman version of Giovanni's Room. Really quick read, really beautiful. If you're interested in gay rights or civil rights or any of that sort of thing, then you'd like the work of James Baldwin. Private Eye, a satirical magazine from the 60s, 80s, very nice, yeah, Private Eye is decent. Viz, a comic from the early 80s, also good. Selected poems by Frank OHara. Frank OHara, I don't know if he counts as Beat Generation, but if you like the work of Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac, Gregory Corso, you'll like Frank OHara. Very modernist. Who else has he got? He's got Christopher Hitchins. Interesting, yeah, Hitchins. Oh wow, we used to idolise Hitchins back at Oxford University. A lot of people liked Hitchins. It's a shame that he passed. You got Julian Barnes, Flaubert's Parrot. I've not got to Barnes yet. I do remember someone saying Barnes is a sort of author that is rewarding later in life when you're like an older man or woman or whatever. So I should check that one out. On the Road by Jack Kerouac. Yeah, I used to love On the Road. On the Road is very adolescent, it's very teenage, it's counterculture, it's very cult. Doesn't surprise me that Bowie liked it. Jim Morrison liked it. That's what kicked off basically his love affair with literature. Marilyn Monroe loved it. Well worth reading. I mean, you might not get much out of it if you're above the age of, say, 25, but if you're a teenager, it's a great read. I'd say avoid the film, though. Not very good. Inferno by Dante Alighieri. Yeah, I read some of Inferno. It doesn't surprise me. That's a classic of world literature, of Italian literature. It's a big old book, but you can read about the upper circles of hell, the lower circles of hell, all that fiery good stuff. Yeah, that's fun. He's also got In Between the Sheets by Ian McEwan. I've read a lot of Ian McEwan's books like Atonement, Enduring Love, and a few others. I haven't read that one, but McEwan's good. He's decent. He's a very decent modern writer. And yeah, those are the ones that sort of stand out to me. If you want to see the whole list, then follow the link below in the description. And let me know, have you read any of Bowie's works? Also let me know, who do you want me to do next? I'm thinking Bob Dylan maybe Mick Jagger. I don't know, I've already done Marilyn Monroe, already done Jim Morrison. Let me know whose reading list you want me to analyse and comment on next. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe, because that tells me you liked it and want me to do more videos. Have a lovely day.